I have to turn. We're on. Okay, we're on. David, how are we doing?
Very well, thank you, sir. How are you?
I'm good. You seem like you're in sunny Sweden there.
Yeah, I've got one of those. My background looks like one of those green screens that you choose on the artificial backgrounds you choose on Zoom. But I've actually got it.
Yeah. Well, mine could be one of them as well, but just happened to be.
Yeah, if you
I'm
had
just in the gym with Phil Roy doing some bar muscle ups.
Or maybe your twins, Stephen and Phil Roy as well.
Cool. All right, so we're just going to go through. We're going to briefly touch on our last phase of training, which was pronounced Smorgasbord.
You haven't butchered that at all.
Go on, tell me how it's pronounced.
Smorgasbord.
So I was nowhere near. Smorgasbord. Which the translation was, if I remember this correctly, it was kind of like a meal or like a platter that you can order in Sweden, where it's just got like a little bit of everything on. And that's kind of and that's what the phase entailed, really. Just a little bit of everything. I've been kind of following it. I think a couple of days in between, in the middle of the phase there, were a little injury and popped out. But yeah, it was exactly that. Like I felt like every single day. Although there was some similarities in there week to week, but every day we were just completely hitting like a different energy system or movement pattern. What was your kind of thought process when you were kind of putting together like the different types of training that we're hitting kind of day to day, and like how that how is that important over a month's training given the time of year that we're in?
So the basis was exactly what you just described there. It was trying to hit on a little bit of everything. For most of the people following this phase, or pretty much everyone following this phase, their season has just come to an end. And so they've probably just come to an end of a period of very structured and very specific training that was aimed at the Open. And now that season has come to an end, it's a time both physically, but also almost more importantly mentally to kind of like just like get away and have like a bit of not necessarily just a physical deload, but a bit of a mental escape from having like specific structured style of training towards a competition. And so a way to get away from that was to just have a bit of a go of doing lots of different things. So we had some strongman sessions in there. We had some longer, more brutal aerobic workouts in there. We had some barbell stuff. We had lots of just gymnastic pieces tied in with like regular CrossFit workouts. So it's just to kind of have a little bit of a touch on everything, get away from doing the same thing, and within that also prepare us for what we need, give us some data and give us some feels for what we're going to need for the new phase starting now.
Yeah, it's actually something. So we did a similar phase at the end of at the end of last season or the start of last season, where it was kind of the same kind of approach, where get people out of the gym. We repeated it like we did the indoor triathlon this time last year. People out of the gym. It's actually something that I didn't do too much of as an athlete. I don't know about you, just like in the earlier years, because it was just kind of like it was just full on like CrossFit, barbell gymnastics, like lift, do a bit of conditioning, like everything was very gym based.
And it almost needs to be. It's very easy when you finish the season. For most people, you end up being quite motivated to get started into the next season because you can see where you've failed and use those failures to then start planning. Okay, this is what I need to work on next season. So it's very easy to get straight into that, but then you also risk that potential burnout because you haven't had that period of just letting go. And like you say, like getting out of the gym, doing some odd workouts, doing some more like team workouts and pair workouts as well. So I think it does. I wish I'd done a little bit more of this earlier on because I think it would have made the latter part of when I've started training like properly for the season more effective because I'd had that time to just like let go.
Yeah, completely. And I agree. I wish I had done it a little bit more because you always found like after that after that competition, when your season ended, whether it be open or regionals, like you say, you've got that motivation, but it doesn't, that wears off after a couple of weeks. And it's at that point that it's worn off. Then you just like, then you hit like that little bit of a lull. And I find like this like month, and we did a similar like type of month last year, you don't get that lull. You get to that 2 or 3 week point, and then you're like, right, now I'm actually feeling really good, and I'm really ready to get stuck into the next like block of training and really start like ironing out any weaknesses and building up my strengths, and just preparing kind of for the next season. So I think it's good just that people understand like why they've just done what they've done, which leads us on to what are they going to be doing next. We've got a hefty phase length coming up, haven't we? A 7 weeker.
Quite a chunky phase to begin with. Yeah, 7 weeker.
Yeah, we're yet to have a phase name. So actually we're putting this out there to everyone that's going to watch this video, is that based off the conversations that we have and the explanations that come through, someone needs to come up with a name for this phase, and potentially also a theme that will base this whole year around. If someone's creative, our creative juices haven't cracked. We've been thinking for a couple of weeks, but we've not come to a decision, have we? So
no, but we were thinking in terms of whatever the phase length, this first phase was called, and like the theme that the year has, it is a theme that involves like some progression. So if it was like the example that you used of agriculture, this would be the early stages of like preparing the soil and sowing the seeds, and then like latter stages, once the seeds have like grown into plants, you have to harvest it, and that's when you're competing. So that kind of thing as well, something with some progression in it.
Yeah. Because I think last year it was a little bit of a mix of that, and it was a little bit of a mix of like building a house and laying the foundations. But I think it'd be good to have like the same theme, just for a bit of crack, really, throughout the year. So on to this phase, we've got multiple different things, and for everyone that's not yet looked, if you check out on the first day of the phase, which is going to be Monday, the 9th of May, check out the overview text there, because there's a very good amount of detail that David's put in there, just explaining every kind of portion, like the weightlifting side of things, the strength work, conditioning, gymnastics, movement mechanics, workouts. Just goes into good detail there. And we're going to go over that detail now, but maybe just like layering a little bit more kind of explanation on that detail as well. So kick us off first on there with the weightlifting. This is actually an area that I personally haven't done a huge amount of in my training, in the weightlifting side. The no contact, the no hook grip, and the no feet variations. I've done bits of it before, but not to this extent where you go quite heavy. It was always like used as a drop-off set or a build-up set, like as a bit of a warm-up to drill some technique. So I'm really excited to see how it go by actually taking those variations like to a higher level of intensity-wise. Talk to me about your thoughts about putting those variations in, how you feel that they'll benefit people, and how it works into the rest of the plan.
So as you said there, these are movements that are often or sometimes used as like warm-up sets to kind of drill good technique, good bar path, and that you can then carry over to the regular lifts once you add in the hook grip again and the contact with the bar and moving your feet. The reason why we are using them in the weightlifting at the moment is because one of the main focuses for this phase is going to be on building raw strength. And by raw strength, we mean lower body pushing, hip hinging, upper body horizontal push-pull, vertical push-pull, and also the trunk stabilization that you need to build in order to keep this trunk and the spine stable whilst you're moving a barbell and moving yourself around a bar as well. While we're building that strength, we have to be careful with how much we're also pushing in the weightlifting, because our body only has we have a fixed like capacity or Like we only have a certain amount of energy that we can dedicate to both performing in training and also recovering from it. So if we're trying to build this raw strength and we're also trying to lift really heavy on the cleans and the snatches as well, it can become like problematic because your potential to overtrain or under recover, or even if you get through it, maybe just not make as much progress on the strength elements as you could. So at the moment, the weightlifting, instead of that being heavy and trying to build like the raw strength with the deadlifts, the squats, the bench, and the strict press and the pulling as well, we're going to have the focus on the strength, and then the weightlifting, the loads are going to be reduced. And they're going to be reduced automatically, because when you do the no hook, the no contact, and the no feet variations, the reason why you do those is because it makes the movement more difficult, essentially, and it forces you to move the bar in a way that is more efficient, because you don't have the help of a hook grip, for instance, which allows you to be able to keep a stronger grip on the bar, and potentially, if you're doing it wrong, use your arms more. You don't have the contact with the bar. So, and we can go through these specifically, actually, and talk about like the reason that what each one does. But each one is essentially going to force you to fix technical errors, and also is going to limit how much you can lift. So even when we're lifting a 4RM or a 3RM or a 2RM, where we've got the same like high focus on the movement that we would have if we were doing a regular lift. We've got the same effort physically that we have on a regular lift, but because we're limited by the variations, we're not going to be able to lift as much load relatively. So we're still working hard, we're still improving our technique, but we're not taking away from the recovery that we need for the lift, for the strength work.
Yeah, and do you know what, I when I kind of, obviously I've seen through the whole phase and like how it's structured, and what the part that excites me, and I kind of understand that that's going to just take a cap on the intensity there of the weightlifting, so I can get more of my pennies towards the raw strength building. But I don't know, I don't have a clue what I'll hit for a 3RM no hook grip snatch. Like, I literally don't have a clue. But you could tell me right now, like, what would you hit for a 3RM snatch right now? And I would be within 2 kilos either side, I think. Like,
Yeah,
and it's just kind of like, for me, someone who's done CrossFit for a while, it's quite exciting as the challenge, as to like, oh, well, I'm going into this session now and I've no clue what I'm going to hit, but I'm going to learn a lot about like what I can do as an athlete in terms of what I'm capable of, and maybe what are my limiting factors to this lift, or you know, what parts do I struggle with, what parts did I actually feel quite good. And I think that actually ties into a lot of the other stuff in line with like the conditioning, the workouts in this phase as well, about like how this phase isn't just about stripping things down and like building things up, which we're both big on pushing. Is training's not just about like getting better physically, it's about understanding yourself better, so that when it comes to workouts that mean things, competitions, qualifiers, whatever they are, you're in a more confident and better position, because you completely understand who you are and what you're capable as an athlete in any situation. And I think these like challenges like that really help prepare and just get you to understand your body in a better way as well.
I think sorry to interrupt you there, but I think that point that you've just hit on there is a really it was very well it's a very valid point, and very like well explained, in that like training is for training, and competing is for competing. And obviously the closer you get to your competition, the more training turns into more like competing. But now, right at the beginning of the season, is the perfect time to be treating training exactly like that, like training. It's building, it's experimenting, it's trying out different tactics and different techniques, and it's like discovering yourself as an athlete and improving your understanding of your capacity as an athlete. So as you say there, you can make more accurate decisions when you're competing.
Yeah, you're just in a better position to make the right decisions, aren't you? So the no variations, what we'll call them. Briefly just touch on for me, like, what can people expect from a no hook grip variation? Like, what are the limiting factors there? I know you touched on it a little bit before. And then same applies to no feet. Like, what might be the hard thing there? What do they have to think about? And the no hook, no contact. The no contact variation. What should people need to think about in those different variations?
So I think, first of all, we're on all of the, I think this counts for all of the variations. I would understand that, like you and like me, people potentially have like little experience with these variations. So don't necessarily go in with numbers in your head of like, this is what I should be hitting on this variation. Just kind of take it as it comes on that first session, feel the movement out, learn the movement first, and then wherever you're for, like keep working up in like small increments, wherever that rep max ends up. That's your number for the day, and that's just the first piece of data that you have for the first week of training. But don't try and read too much into that number yet until you really start to understand the movements. On the no hook variation, so no hook grip basically just means that you're not going to have your regular hook grip. You can have a normal full grip on the barbell. The reason why we use a hook grip is because it allows us to keep our arms relaxed whilst maintaining a strong grip on the bar. However, it can also, or not using the hook grip then means that we have a weaker grip on the barbell, so that when we get to that point where we're really accelerating with the bar, we have to be have a little bit more finesse with it, and be a bit smoother with how we are like applying force to the barbell and how quickly we are accelerating. Because you don't have that hook grip, you cannot just smash the barbell because it will just fly out of your hands, and you'll feel that grip loosening as well.
It's driving you to more a vertical bar path to make sure that that bar doesn't like come out of the hand, which obviously you've not got that hook grip that's locking it in. So yeah, it's forcing that vertical bar path.
Yeah, and it almost works hand in hand with the no contact as well, because you'll find that the people that, if you're one of those people that have like a really violent contact with the barbell and you find that it swings out when you're lifting, these are two things: not having a hook grip and not having a contact to the bar, so not allowing the bar to touch your body at any point, removes the opportunity to be able to swing the bar out and forces you, as you say, to have a much more vertical bar path.
The no contact variation is actually one that I've probably done the most out of those three. And I've done them before because I very much rely on the speed of the barbell when it gets to mid thigh into the hip, and that connection with the barbell in order to get the height on the pull. And I've always found that doing the no contact, it makes me try and generate that power and that speed a little bit earlier in the pull. So then I'm training the earlier part of the pull and generating speed there. And then when I do bring the hips in at a later time, I've got speed from both parts, both below the knee and both above the knee. That's an area that I've found personally, anyway, it being very, very helpful for.
Yeah, I think that's one of the areas that it definitely helps with is how you are applying, or how and when you're applying that speed to the bar. I've in the past, when I've used no contact work, I found it very helpful for my transition under the bar, and I find that that transition under the bar, it forces it to be a bit smoother and also a bit faster as well, because, as you say, you can't rely on that like big point of contact at the top. Also with the no hook grip and the no contact variations, like the difference between the snatch and the clean, or the difference between your regular snatch and your regular clean, if you find that you do a no hook, no contact variation, it's going to be interesting to see how people progress, how their regular lifts progress after we move back to the regular lifts after we finish the no variations. Because if you find one of these variations particularly difficult, chances are that's potentially where you're compensating in your regular lift as well.
Yeah, agreed. It's and the thing is, like you said at the beginning, like everyone could be a little bit different, and like what's limiting each person, so every person on the program could be a little bit different, but it's all about finding out yourself, like where is it in this lift that you struggle with. Does that transfer over into your main lifts when you're allowed to use like your hook grip and contact, etc.? So it's just a good learning experience. The no feet is something I'll probably also use quite a bit, but more so in a CrossFit workout setting for myself. Like when you've got reps to do and you don't want to be doing an excessive amount of foot movement, so you just you're picking in between of your receive and your starting position, You pick an in
Yeah.
between, and you pull from there, and you squat from there, and you do everything from that position, and your feet don't move. So I've always used it as a way of like making my workouts more efficient, more so than as a way of it benefiting my weightlifting training.
Yeah.
How do you find that the no feet will benefit the weightlifting side of things?
So with the no feet snatch and the no feet clean, we are putting our feet are basically bolted to the ground. So we're not allowing the feet to move from the ground. Normally when we snatch and clean, we have a starting position that we begin the lift in. And then after we finish the pull, we would then relocate the feet to a landing position or a finish position where we'd feel comfortable receiving the bar.
Yeah.
With a no feet variation, you're going to put your feet in a position that's kind of in between your start position and your finish position. And then you're going to keep your feet bolted to the ground from there. A couple of ways that this can help improve a lift or kind of improve like the technical efficiency of your regular lift. If you're one of those people that has a big jump back or a jump forward in your lift, this is going to, the fact that you have to keep your feet bolted to the floor is going to make sure that obviously you can't jump anywhere. Yeah. And initially if you rely on whatever is causing you to do that jump, initially you'll find that it'll probably be difficult to get the weights up on this one. But then over time, as you become less reliant on that mechanic, we should see that you're able to lift more weight, which then should help when we transfer back over to the regular lifts. And also with the no feet variations, that's on a Saturday session. So that's one of the days when we do the no feet variations. We work up to the rep max, and then we have an every minute or every period of time, minute, 75 seconds, 90 seconds, where you're then going to blend it into the regular lift as well. So you'll start with doing some no feet variations, and then you'll move into no feet plus regular snatch or regular clean. And that way you'll be able to feel straight away what effect that's had on your lifting as well, because you'll be able to put the two together.
Yeah, I think that will really help people see the benefit of those, like by doing it in the same session and feeling it from 10 minutes later, how much different being able to then use the movement of your feet, how much better that'll feel. And I feel like again, it's just making sure that you're pulling and applying force in the right direction, isn't it? I.e. bar path, making it vertical. Which, we've done a few workshops and training camps, and feel like we were a little bit on repeat. But this is what weightlifting is about. It's vertical it's a bar path that's as close as possible to the body in a vertical direction. And if that's right, like everything else should follow, as long as the ability and the positionings are there. It can get complicated, weightlifting, but you can also keep it really simple. And I think that's how simple people need to kind of approach weightlifting.
I mean, you can think of it, you can look at these things as, to keep it simple in the way that you've just said there is there are principles that every lifter will follow. There are individual differences based on your biomechanics and how strong you are in certain areas that mean that how you achieve that principle might be different, but essentially we're all trying to do the same thing. And these no variations are just ways of targeting whatever potential technical error that you have that moves you away from that principle to get you back to it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's like I said, I'm excited to try them out and feel the benefit that they have by doing them kind of probably more frequently, as in like week to week, and pushing the weight on them a little bit as well. We're going to move into the strength portion next. I'm actually going to just separate this as a different video. And this is not because I don't have the upgraded version of Zoom anymore. Because it's about to be off in about 50 seconds. I did actually used to have the upgraded version in lockdown, but then I decided I don't need it, but looks like I do. Anyway, we'll do the second video and we'll touch on the strength and the rest of the parts of the program coming up.
Cool.
Stay tuned.
In a bit.